The sound of relief rings out in parts of Spain and Portugal after being cut off. Some are now reconnected. But authorities warn it could take weeks to fully restore. Monday saw carnage in the Spanish capital. No traffic lights at this roundabout makes for an almost lawless scene as cars and pedestrians navigate the disorder. It's a picture replicated across the country and in Portugal too. Both nations were entirely cut off from power.
Hi everyone, this is Eldad Amara. This is my channel Eyes Wide Shut. Do you see what happened in Portugal and Spain just the other day? They had massive power shortages. Now, this video is entitled Major Power Outages in Parts of Spain and Portugal Still Unknown. So said. Major power outages in parts of Spain and Portugal still unknown. So said. Now, I've been telling people for the longest of time, you need to prepare for possible emergency situations. You go back and look at some of my videos where I talk about putting away food for possible emergency situations, putting away money for possible emergency situations. You see, there's a lot of governments now, they're planning to bring in this digitalized currency, okay, over cash. To me, cash is king. Cash is king. Why do they want to bring in digital money? Because it's easier for them to be able to monitor you, to see where you're spending your money, see who you're spending your money with. And if you say something against the government, they can just cut you off. Okay? They can cut you off, stop you from spending money in certain shops, stop you from saving your money. Right? Because they know just about every single thing about you, where you're traveling to, how much money you spend on petrol, how much money you spend on clothes, how much money you're spending on holidays, and all of those kinds of things. Do you really want that kind of surveillance? People are sleepwalking into this situation where sooner or later they'll have no control of their money, no control of where they can go and spend their money, and who they can spend their money with. You see, the advantages of money are things such as it's a private transaction between you and somebody else. Nobody else needs to know who you're spending your money with, yeah? Where you're going and who you're spending your money with. No need for government to know what you're spending your money on. The government can stop transactions if you speak out against them. So if you go on the social media and you said something that they don't like, they can stop your money. But with cash, it's not so easy for them to be able to do this. So that's why cash is king. That's why cash is important. Also, if the system crashes, as it did in Spain and Portugal, at least you've still got some money on you, okay? If you carry around cash with you, at least you've still got some money where you can buy goods and services, okay? Whereas if it was digital money or cards, it's very hard for you to have some kind of transaction there. Now people are saying that digital money has certain advantages, such as it stops things like robbery, okay? So if digitalized money come in, it won't be so easy for people to be able to rob you. Because if you're walking around with cash, it's quite easy for people to come and mug you or to rob you. But the disadvantage is that if you've got digitalized money, how do you know that somebody can't try and take your money by committing some kind of fraud online? Because everything's going online. How do you know that somebody can't hack into your account and take your money? It's already happened with people with these so-called cards, yeah? With credit cards, people have managed to hack into their account and take their money. So we go one step further and having this digitalized money. If we have this digitalized money, won't it even be even easier for people to hack into your accounts. People say that digitalized money will save you time and energy, and also that it's convenient. You don't have to go to a bank to take your money out. You see all this thing about convenience? You see all this thing about convenience? And I'll say it one more time. You see all this stuff about convenience. People are getting too lazy. Portugal and Spain, were they prepared for possible emergencies? And their phones they use for things like shopping with. Okay? To use at the airports. To use as identity at the airports. Yeah? So many people are paying for things now by their phone. But if their phone goes down, as it did in Spain and Portugal, then how are you going to pay for goods? Even simple things like using a sat-nav. If that goes down because the grid's gone down, how are you going to find directions to get from one place to another? People just don't seem to be thinking about this. We need to be a little bit more aware, people. Seriously, we need to be just a little bit more aware. In Portugal and Spain, people were in huge panic because they couldn't buy any food, didn't have any gas or electricity. The traffic lights were down and weren't working properly. Airports were shut down because guess what? The airports system is shut down. Let me read this article. This article says, the countries boost high levels of wind and solar on their grids, leading to speculation about robustness of technology. Spain and Portugal suffered the worst blackouts in living memory in Europe this week. About 55 million people were affected and it lasted more than half a day. Some have blamed renewables and net zero emission targets, as the two countries boast high levels of wind and solar on their electricity grid and led Europe in the technology. But is this true? What happened? Some initial reports suggested a rare atmospheric phenomenon may have been to blame, citing a statement attributed to the Portuguese grid operator REN. In extreme weather, such as storms and heat waves, the cables that carry electricity overhead can oscillate, which can cause problems with conductors, particularly on older and less well-maintained equipment. However, the weather in Spain was normal on Monday. On Tuesday, REN denied it had been responsible for the statement, but did not give further details. Portuguese government blamed an unexplained power transmission issue in Portugal. We have no information related to a cyber attack or a hostile attack at this stage, said the government spokesman Antonio Eldad Amara, who told CNN Portugal there seemed to have been an issue in Spain. Spain pointed a finger at a breakup in its connection to France. Experts have said it could take days to identify the cause. Did renewable energy play a part? Spain and Portugal led the EU in renewables and were sourcing about 80% of their electricity from solar and wind when the blackout hit on Monday. Some commentators speculated that the grid could have been overloaded by the amount of wind and sun available, as renewables are more intermittent than other forms of energy, and sudden fluctuation in sunshine or wind. However, this does not appear to be the case. Daniel Muir, a senior European power analyst at S&P Global, said, "The nature and scale of the outage makes it unlikely that the volume of renewables was the cause, with the Spanish network more often than not subject to very high volumes of such production." Spanish grid operator said on Tuesday that there had been two events akin to loss of power generation followed by a massive loss of renewable power, which had destabilized the grid. They said, very possible, and this is in red, they said it was very possible. And I say again, they said it was very possible, and they've highlighted this in red. The first of these events was a sudden loss of solar power. So they don't know really whether or not these solar powered devices had anything to do with the blackouts. There's been a lot of speculation about what may have caused the blackouts. I have my own theory, and I think this is all a test, right? This is all a test by some government forces. You see, they want to see how well people can cope if there was an emergency. Okay, they want to see just how well people could cope if there was a possible emergency. And so this is just a test, a bit like in 2020, when there's a whole heap of different tests that was being carried out. Anyway, just like in 2020, right, when they were testing out a lot of different things, like that this was a test by a certain unelected body, because they want certain things in place by 2030. They want this great reset. It's funny how nobody knows exactly what caused these power outages in both Portugal and Spain. And they're coming up with all these different hypotheses. But to me personally, I think it has something to do with this Agenda 2030. Now I want you to watch this video, which I'm going to show you on Spain and Portugal. And please leave a comment and let me know what you think. It's time, people, to prepare for certain emergencies. Make sure that you've got cash available somewhere. Make sure you start putting away food in case of emergency situations. Go back and watch some of my videos on preparation for emergency situations. This is Eldad Amara with another video. Over and out. Thank you, people.
The sound of relief rings out in parts of Spain and Portugal after being cut off. Some are now reconnected. But authorities warn it could take weeks to fully restore. Monday saw carnage in the Spanish capital. No traffic lights at this roundabout makes for an almost lawless scene as cars and pedestrians navigate the disorder. It's a picture replicated across the country and in Portugal too. Both nations were entirely cut off from power. As the train network grounded to a halt, some stranded passengers in Valencia walked the rest of their journeys. Railway lines deserted and phone lines dead. By lunchtime, office workers poured onto the streets, dazed and disconnected.
We were working very well. Suddenly the computer went down. We thought it was a normal blackout, as it happens sometimes, but then we heard it was a cyber attack. This was through information through the poor connection we had to the internet. After that we stopped having any comms, no access to the internet, nothing.
Passengers wanting to travel in and out of the countries are desperate for movement that's simply not happening. Flights in and out are either severely delayed or cancelled. Here at Madrid Airport and Barcelona too are running off emergency contingency generators. There are queues everywhere you look, for taxi stands, for information desks, people desperate for some nugget of news. Two countries thrown into darkness, and the cause is still unknown.